Hey, good evening. We'll be starting in just about 1 minute. And just like always, pushing this around a little bit just to get it out there throughout Carbon County. You can feel free if you have the propensity to, desire to, go ahead and feel free to share this on any pages that you might regularly visit or any groups that you might regularly visit. I'm about less than 1 minute from starting here. This is going to be understanding Carbon County government with Chris Lukasevich. If I could have someone out there just give me a thumbs up or send me some indication that my volume is good. There's good audio. That would be great. I'd appreciate that. I have all my devices right now on mute. So if I could get one thumbs up, that would be great. Just to let me know everything is working well as we get ready here to transition to understanding Carbon County government. I'm Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasevich. I'll be on my own tonight. This is not Carbon Matters, so Maggie's back at the house. I'm over here in my office. So again, we got about 15 seconds and we'll be starting. This will be understanding county government, specifically Carbon County government, with Chris Lukasevich. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. The volume's good. Again, it's Thursday evening, 8:01. This is Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasevich, and thank you so much for joining me. This is my continuing effort to better educate all of us on how county government operates. This is about a 60 to 90 minute presentation or conversation that will take place. It will be, of course, available afterwards on Facebook, and I'll also have it on a couple YouTube channels also. Should you have a question, you can call 570-503-6780, or you can drop it in the comment section. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Got my laser pointer ready. All right, this is understanding Carbon County government. There's my phone number right below. And county government more or less is like a jigsaw puzzle, right? There's a lot of disparate, distinct pieces, but when they all come together, they provide effective and efficient services for the residents of Carbon County. But I want everyone to keep in mind continually this evening as I work through this basic understanding of county government, that the fact is commissioners don't run the county, commissioners run county government. So there is at times confusion of the role of commissioners and the separations of powers and authorities between the state, right, our elected representatives at that level, our county government, and then finally the 23 municipalities that fall within the geographical boundaries of Carbon County. So again, I'm going to reiterate this, emphasize it throughout the evening. Commissioners don't run the county, commissioners run county government. And that's what we're going to be discussing. So let me go ahead and jump to the agenda for tonight's conversation. Thank you, Dennis. I got that. Volume is good. I am using the Blue Yeti microphone. It is actually an excellent microphone for these types of broadcasts. So here's the agenda. This is what I'm going to be discussing this evening. Obviously, this overview is going to consist of 13 components. I'm going to just briefly give you the references that I use in addition to my own personal experience since August of 2016, attending commissioners meeting, and then since January 6th of last year, when I became an elected official and took my position as a Carbon County Commissioner. I'm going to give a general overview of the county, which I think most of us already know, talk about the classifications by populations of the classes of counties in Pennsylvania, look at our municipalities to make sure everyone understands, what we are composed of when it comes in the political orders of magnitudes. Look at specifically the structure of county government, talk about the employees, the numbers, and how they're broken down into different work units. Then dive in a little bit into the office of the commissioner, our legislative powers, those given by the county code. Look at the board of and authorities that the commissioners sit upon or oversee. Then look at really what is the relationship of the commissioners, the row offices, and the judiciary. And talk a little bit about my favorite topic, Government Study Commission, also known as Seeking Home Rule. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the major items on horizon for the county from my perspective. So let's quickly dive into, so what are the resources I reference? Well, no doubt there's a Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, right? And derived from that is what's referred to as the county code. And for all intent and purposes, this guides what commissioners, row officers can do. So they're authorities, not so much totally their responsibilities, but it does describe them pretty well. So it's really about the authorities, the left and right limits. And then also there's the manual for county commissioners, which is actually an excellent read. It's a great overview of county organization and structure. Taking that down to the next level, there's a citizen's guide to Pennsylvania local government. And then finally, when I'm talking about Government Study Commission, primary reference is a DCED handbook that's been put out called Home Rule in Pennsylvania. But I also refer to charters of 5 different counties in Pennsylvania, to include 3 that are contiguous or beside Carbon County, Lehigh, Luzerne, Northampton, that have home rule charters. So let's go ahead, let's take a look at Carbon County. Carbon County is one of 67 counties in the state of Pennsylvania. Long before we, the white man, were walking around Carbon County, the Lenape, right, used this as an area in which primarily they would be transiting. From my study of Carbon County history, and if you can see on my, let me see if I shoulder behind me. Oh, you can't see, but I have a large book back right there it is. That's the history of Carbon County, goes all the way back to before our founding. But my study of history and Native Americans in the area, they actually didn't reside in the area, but rather this was a transitory zone for the Lenape, or quote unquote, the original people, as that is said to translate from, part of the Delaware tribe. We know that in Carbon County, just up the road, right from where I'm sitting here up in Summit Hill, Ginter discovered anthracite coal. We jump all the way to 1843, in March of 1843, right, just after St. Paddy's Day, somewhat fitting, right? Carbon County was derived out of what was then Northampton and Monroe County. And today we're about 400 square miles, all but about 19 of it is land. A significant percentage of Carbon County, there's numbers totaling between 60 and 70% are undeveloped, or they're state game lands, parks, recreational areas, undeveloped areas. So we're really fortunate. I think most of us recognize our natural environment, our natural beauty is our greatest resource here in this county. 2000 census was just at about 65,000. 10 years later, it dropped just a little bit, just above 64. And we're awaiting the report of the decennial, the 2020 census that was just completed. Now, that was actually supposed to be presented, the numbers prior to President Trump leaving office, but now it looks like it might even be September before the Census Bureau actually reports its number. That's very important, because that's how the states redistrict the voting or representational districts for our legislators and things. So there is a bit of a delay taking place. Unemployment rate as of December, 6.7 for carbon versus 6.5 across the state of Pennsylvania. Now, if you would have went to April of 2020, so really the pandemic was just really starting to kick in, we were up around 15%. So we've been picking up about 2 percentage points a month here to get us kind of where we're at, right? 1 3/4 to 2. So a little bit about what we earn or do not earn in Carbon County. I just picked 3 areas, right? In healthcare, county versus state. What's the delta, right? That triangle, that difference. Well, actually, healthcare, on average, a person doing healthcare in Carbon County only earns about $50 less per year. And when it comes to the legal profession, and there's a lot of lawyers in county government. Matter of fact, there's 25 or 26 of them. Once you look at part-time, the solicitors, public defenders, right? There's a big difference. From the average, the delta is about $60,000. So definitely practicing elsewhere can be much more advantageous monetarily. And if you're in a management position, I would like this would be considered a management position. The difference between carbon and the average in Pennsylvania is about $11,000. So elsewhere you're earning about $11,000 more. Now, keep in mind when we're talking all these numbers, there's more than simply salary that impacts quality of life, right? Your commute. My commute right now is excellent. I'm 5 minutes from the house. I'll bet you it's maybe just right about a mile, maybe 1.1, right? So real short commute. So I might be more willing to accept less in the way of salary. Could I potentially go down in the Lehigh Valley and earn $20,000, $30,000 more in a management position? Potentially. But then again, my quality of life is reduced. The standard of living here in Carbon County is quite good. The cost of living is quite good also. So again, it's not just salary. So that's an overview of Carbon County. But again, remember, we are surrounded by 6 contiguous counties, right? You see Luzerne up to our north and west. Northeast is Monroe, east, Northampton, Lehigh to the south, then Schuylkill to the southwest. So again, we have those counties right around us, those 5. And I do want to mention Lehigh, Luzerne, and Northampton are home rule counties. Let's look into a little bit about how counties are classified in Pennsylvania. And they're classified by size, all right? So I'm going to go ahead, jump right into that. Remember right now, you tuning in to Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasiewicz. I'm providing an overview of county government and specifically Carbon County government. This is my continuing effort since coming into office to help us all be better informed citizens, right? Something that really I would argue is missing significantly from our education system. So I don't mind trying to be the flag bearer, the tip of the spear here. I love civics. I love political science. I love local government, municipal government, and that's why I'm here as a commissioner. So it's an honor for me to get to have the conversation, present this information to the citizens of Carbon County. Now, if you have a question, you can give me a call at 570-503-6780. Or you can put it in the chat that I'm following here also. If for some reason I miss your comment or I can't get to it in this evening while I'm talking or having this conversation with you, I will look at them later tonight or sometime tomorrow, and I'll go ahead and reply. So again, we're talking about how counties are classified. Well, they're classified by class, and there are 8 classes of counties in Pennsylvania. Remember, 67 counties, and it's by population, going from under 20,000 to over $1.5 million, right? Carbon County is a 6th-class county. You can see it. I have it highlighted in yellow, right? We fit within that 45 to 95 thousand mark. There are 22 other counties that are of similar size. So more or less, we see about a third of the counties in Pennsylvania are 6th-class counties. We'll see our neighbors, Monroe and Schuylkill. They're 4th class. What they have, look, you jump from 65,000 to up to over 145. So like 3 times the size in those counties. And then finally, you jump up to Lehigh, Luzerne, and Northampton, they go up over 200,000 population. So that's the 5 counties which are contiguous, connected to carbon. And then again, you go all the way up to Philadelphia and Allegheny, which is your 2nd and 1st-class counties. Now, these numbers are somewhat important because these are the population centers. And these population centers, and remember, this Montgomery and Buxton, Delaware, right, they're all more or less connected to this Philadelphia super metro area or metropolis area. That's a big voting block. And although we're a rural county and we're a rural state by definition, the fact is Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, when it comes to voting, they definitely hold a lot of sway. And you see that in our elections. So again, this is talking about county classification. It's by population. And what you'll hear a lot in county government, mostly when people are trying to justify additional funding, what they'll say, well, we're a 6th-class county with 4th-class county problems, or we're competing against salaries in 4th-class and 3rd-class counties. And we are. But as I said, quality of life, standard of living isn't all about how much you earn. It's also about where you live, the amenities, the beauty, the commute, right? Your neighbors, how people treat each other. So a lot goes into that, right? All right, so now I want to dig down a little bit. We're up at really looking at the county. Now let's look at Carbon County and its composition. Carbon County consists of 23 municipalities in the geographical area. Understand it, I have it in quotation marks because counties are also municipalities. So to be legalistic and appropriate, there are 24 municipalities that compose the geographical area, just under more or less 400 square miles of Carbon County. And those are broken down by political units, right? We have the county as one political unit. Then you have boroughs, of which there's 12, and then 11 townships. So, of course, I'm down here in Jim Thorpe, literally right beside the Lehigh River. As you can see, the Lehigh River, Orient U, bisects the county, a little less than, not quite 50-50, maybe 60-40 from landmass away. So it'll be interesting to do actually the population measures. I refer to this area, this region here, kind of the anthracite region, right? Nesquehoning, Lansford, Summit Hill, right? Then you have the northern tier. Here it is, Banks, Beaver Meadows, Luzanne, Weatherly, Packer, Lehigh, and up East Side Borough and up to Kidder Township. I refer to that more or less the northern tier. Not so much Kidder, but again, it is the furthest north one. When I say northern tier, I tend to more often than not speaking here. Kidder is so large geographically, I kind of speak to that as its own area. Some might refer to this area, this Penn Forest Kidder, as a swamp, right? We used to call the folks from out in the mountain the pine swampers out in this area. Now you also have Mahoning Township, Lehighton, you go over to Franklin, Weisport, and Perryville. And that's really, and even into Toa-Mensing, that's another band. And then finally, down to the south of the county East Penn, Lower Toa-Mensing, Bowmanstown, Palmerton, right? So that is the 23 municipalities plus one is Carbon County that makes up Carbon County. How many folks know where the village of Audenried is? All right, village of Audenried, probably never heard of it in Carbon County. Right here it is, right? That's Audenried. Takes you about 5 seconds to get through Audenried, but it is up here in Carbon County, right? It's like Junedale, right? You have Junedale right up in here also, and there's two other smaller villages. Obviously, Tresco's right up here also. So again, 23 municipalities. These are political subdivisions. So when we're talking about villages, they're not political subdivisions, right? They're just villages. All right, so let's talk about Carbon County government. Now, keep in mind, as I said on slide number 3, county commissioners don't run the county. County commissioners run county government, right? So what is county government composed of? So here's my organizational chart. I developed this over the last year trying to figure out, where does everyone fit in to that organization I know as Carbon County. Again, in the military, everything is based on table of distribution of allowance, table of organization and equipment, TDAs, TOEs, basically organizational charts, So I had to put this into a form that, one, I could understand it, and then I could help share it with others to help them understand. So county government is actually, and I can't really say county government, county services kind of fall into 3 areas of control or responsibility. There are what are referred to as the row offices or the row officers, right? Those are all the county level elected officials other than the commissioners. You see 9 of them, right? Plus you have 3 commissioners, but these are called the row offices or row officers. They're co-equal elected officials. They're sometimes referred to. All right, so that's one segment. Then you have the commissioners who have departments that fall under their realm of responsibility, right? And then you have the judiciary, right? And I'm going to talk in depth of each one of these 3 segments of county government. All right, so let's go ahead first. The row officers, those are elected officials. And I will remind you that we have 3 elected row offices that are up for election here in May. That would be the clerk of courts, the treasurer, and the recorder of deeds. All right, I'll talk each. So let's go ahead. Let's see if we can talk a little bit. I'm going to get my laser pointer off here. Okay, I think I got that off. Let me make sure. All right, so the prothonotary, right? It's funny, I can see it on this slide. There's actually a little pop-up that should be coming up on your screen any second. Anyway, the prothonotary, right? The prothonotary maintains the records of all civil procedures before the courts. They sign all the writs and processes, such as suits, and they file copies of all the records and processes on the civil side of the court system. The prothonotary does take bail in civil actions and enter judgments at the instance that's required. Let's go to the clerk of courts, and that is one of the offices that is up for election in May. So the chief clerk and record keeper for the criminal court side. So the clerk of courts keeps all papers filed under criminal procedures of the courts and is responsible for maintaining the minute book and the records of all similar procedures for the courts. So what I like to do when I'm thinking prothonotary, I'm thinking civil actions, right? When I'm thinking clerk of courts, I'm thinking criminal, right? Now next, let's look at the controller, right? In a corporation, you might hear this referred to as the comptroller, right? So the controller primarily responsible for gathering of the budget information, working to develop that budget, and ensuring that there is an appropriate system of accounting available. The coroner, right? And it's not just a coroner, but the coroner is actually a Bob plus 9 deputy or assistant coroners. A little bit of uproar when I published it would have been in January, right around the salary board. I published all the salary for the row offices, right? The row officers, and they're all around the 70,000 mark, right? The 60,000 mark, right around the 60s, right in there. And the coroner was so low, right? And everyone was saying, oh my gosh, it's such a hard job. Well, it's not a full-time position. It may end up being full-time hours, but it is not, 8:30 to 4:30 sitting in the county. And again, the coroner does have 9 assistants who work for him on an on-call nature, right? So that's all about deaths, right? Investigating the deaths of suspicious or violent nature, and is assisted by a coroner of inquest when called to determine the causes of death. And what we do is, for autopsies, we tend to contract those out. I see the bills for those on a regular basis, sometimes too regular of a basis, right? So let's talk the district attorney, right? I think you watch TV, you know what the DA is, right? District attorney. They sign all the bills of indictments. They conduct all in-court criminal prosecutions on behalf of the Commonwealth, right? Recorder of deeds, another position that is up for re-election this May. The recorder of deeds is responsible for the preservation of records relating to real property in the county, right? Required to record and affix a seal, right? A stamp on all deeds executed, mortgages, condominium declarations, subdivision plans, and other records of property ownership, right? The recorder of deeds, excuse me, I misspoke. I was thinking the register of wills is the other one that's up, not the recorder of deeds. Donna was just elected in her first year. My apologies, right? The recorder of deeds is just down here under the commissioner's office by about 2 floors. That's Donna. She has 3 more years. The register of wills is that second position that's up for a re-election. So just to clarify, up for re-election, the clerk of courts, the register of wills, of which I'm about to talk about, and the treasurer. So the register of wills, right, responsible for the collection of state inheritance tax, has jurisdiction over probate of wills and fiduciary accounts, and maintains records on wills, inventories of estates, fiduciary accounts, inheritance tax records, registrations of licenses, marriage licenses, perfect example. So the sheriff in Carbon County, right, is actually an officer of the court and doesn't have law enforcement authorities, right? So they deliver and carry out the orders of the county court. For example, service of writs, processes and other judicial documents, executing sheriff sales, right? We're talking, going door to door, delivering warrants, courthouse security, prisoner transport, and assistance in impaneling juries. And then finally, the treasurer, again, that office is open. Treasurer Sheehan will be retiring. That'll open up that position, right? Responsible for the receipt, custody, and disbursement of all county monies. And as an agent of the state, issues dog and hunting licenses, fishing licenses. And the treasurer is responsible for paying the bills, right? On order from the commissioners, right? They produce the vouchers, they're approved, and then they get paid. The transactions take place. All right, let me get back to my pointer now here. All right, so again, one last time because it's coming up. Running offices up for election in the May primary. Clerk of Courts, right here, currently held by Tyra Boney. Register of Wills, currently held by Jean Papay. The Treasurer, currently held by retiring Ron Sheehan. All right, we're going to jump over to the judicial. The judiciary, the judges are considered constitutionally superior to the commissioners. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the relationship between the three once I give the overview. So the judiciary, right, the Court of Common Pleas, right, the three judges, Judge Danovic, right, who's the president judge, Judge Serfas, Judge Matika. Then with under that, there's that administrative arm, right? We have 4 district justices, right? And it, you know, the one in Jim Thorpe, the one up in Lansford, Weatherly, Palmerton, the magistrates. Then you have an office of domestic relations. You have 2 probation offices, adult and juvenile, and the library, and then they have their own IT. That all falls under the judiciary. Now, the individuals under the judiciary, administratively, I wish this was a military audience because I could describe AdCon, TACON, OpCon, right? So you have administrative control, operational control, tactical control, different ways to describe relationships. But for all intent and purposes, everyone here works for the judges and reports to the judges. Over here in the row offices, they have what's called 1610 authority, which is really hire, fire, and discipline for all intent and purposes are the row offices. So what has them potentially beholden to the Board of Commissioners, right? It's the fact the Board of Commissioners control the budget and control contracts, right? So salaries falls to the Board of Commissioners, right? Any contracts that these entities need have to be approved by the Board of Commissioners. But at the end of the day, all 3 entities, and the last one I'm going to dive in for a minute, right? We're all responsible to the voters. These 9 row officers, these 3 judges, all elected officials, plus the 3 commissioners, were ultimately responsible to John Q. Public, you, me, everyone else in Carbon County. The 64,000 residents, I think we're right around probably 42 to 44,000 registered voters. We actually have a very high registration rate. 44 out of 65,000. Bear in mind, a large percentage of that not registered to vote population are under the legal voting age of 18. So at least registered voters, we have a lot. Now, voter turnout obviously can be problematic. So let's talk about the commissioners, the 3 commissioners. I'd love to go back to the first slide, an earlier slide, because when I talked about county commissioners don't run the county, they run county government, there was a picture of all the county commissioners. So let me do that in case you don't. All right, I have to jump back here, right? So Commissioner Arner, Commissioner Notstein, Commissioner Lukasevich. What's that cheesy smile there? Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Hey, that's pretty good, right? This is our solicitor, Dan Miscavige, the chief clerk, Ellie Arner, and the deputy clerk or assistant clerk, right? So that would be the second to Ellie, Colleen Klein. All right, let me get back to where I was there. Apologize for jumping around. So there more or less, there are 21, let me call them departments that fall under the command and control of the commissioners. And let me take a brief pause here and say, if you're just tuning in, I'm Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasevich, and I'm providing an overview of county government. This is my continuing effort to help us be better informed citizens, understand civics, understand political subdivisions, understand how our county government operates, so we can all be better informed citizens, better informed residents, and better informed voters. So more or less, I count 21 different departments that fall under the commissioners. Keep in mind, though, working directly for the commissioners, right? You have the solicitor, right? The lawyer. You have the chief clerk, right? And then all the department heads. So first thing, and again, I categorize these as best I could. There are no lines running down. It's basically the commissioners execute the majority of its administrative control and tasks of its department heads through the chief clerk. All right. And I'm going to explain that a little bit in another slide coming up, I think 2 from now. All right. So we have an IT section right here at the admin building. And then over on 4th Street in Jim Thorpe is our archive. So if you want to do research on genealogy, go through the microfilms and put up any publicly available records, you can get that at archives. The Area Agency on Aging, which focuses on senior citizens. In the state of Pennsylvania, senior citizens status begins at age 60. We have children and youth. So they tend to work the child abuse cases, foster care, human resources department, right? Veterans Affairs, Christine LeClaire, who runs that office. We have one of the largest by percentage populations of veterans in the state of Pennsylvania. If I recall, it's either number 3 or number 4 by percentage of veterans in Carbon County. So that's pretty significant amount of patriotism, right? If you connect that to military service. One we all know, and actually taking place right now, they're starting to print out the tax bills. You have tax assessment, right? So they're determining the value, assessing the value of properties, right? And they're applying the millage rate for the county, 12.25, 0.85 of that goes towards debt. The remainder is towards the operational budget, right? They provide the tax assessment information for the county, the school districts, and those 23 municipalities. Wait, all right, Spanish is the second language. Wait, good evening. I'd like to offer you Carbon County Special Program, Spanish as a second language. Muy bien. Si usted quisiera hablar en español, siempre estoy listo a hacerlo. Solamente tiene que hacer contacto conmigo, cantante futura leyenda. Oh, mi compañero de Colombia, ¿cómo está? Es un placer tener usted conmigo esta noche aquí de Pensilvania. Un placer. Hay una Pensilvania en Colombia también, la cantante futura leyenda. Aren't you the king of salsa? There's something like that. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. Again, let me continue on. So we had tax assessment, right? They prepare basically the assessment, provide the documentation to the borough, the county, and the school districts. Then you have tax claim, and that's all about those taxes um, that aren't paid more or less in a timely manner. That's when you tend to hear from them most often. And then we have our mapping office, right? Or geospatial information systems mapping office. Provides a lot of great products. The team down there, led by Jason, my go-to guys more often than not when I'm trying to put together presentations, put together maps, trying to take data, incorporate it into maps. Jason just recently assisted me with taking all the camping data from 2018, 19, and 20 at Mock Chunk Lake Park and putting that into some heat maps that I provided online. And I have a couple other variations of those maps to show where the majority of campers are coming from who visit Mock Chunk Lake Park. And then we have emergency management 911. Emergency management, right? Synchronize, coordinate, prepare for potential emergency management situations, natural disasters, chemicals releases, things of that. That's up on the Broad Mountain, as is our 911 communication center, right? Primary dispatchers for emergency services. Then one of the primary responsibilities of the commissioner's duties is execution of elections. So you have your elections office. Then purchasing office, right? Any requests for proposals, requests for bids, and also doing all the inventory of every piece of equipment the county owns falls under purchasing. Then we have our buildings and grounds team, planning and development. Once a month, right? You may tune into the live streaming of our planning meeting, right? So they take from the municipalities who provide plans for development to our planning and development office. The planning commission reviews those plans to provide an opinion if they are consistent with the municipality's zoning or ordinances with the Carbon County Comprehensive Plan. That office also does some grants, community development block grants, CDBG grant, for example. And then rounding it out at this level, you have the animal shelter up on the Broad Mountain, right? We have a parking team. We're going to talk about kiosk implementation a little bit. And then you have Mock Chunk Lake Park, MCLP. Two other entities that fall under the direction of the commissioners, for all intent and purposes, the public defender's office, that is a part-time public defender plus his assistant. Like I told you, there are like 26 lawyers in county government, full-time and part-time. So you're going to see that's 1/16 of the organizational structure are lawyers. That's why we need home rule, government study commission, right? Want to solidify, unify an office of solicitors, right? So we don't have 26 solicitors. It's ludicrous. And they're probably paid $40,000 to $50,000 a year, even the part-time ones, right, with full benefits. To me, it's ludicrous. So there is a better way. It's about a government study commission. It's about home rule. We'll talk about that in a little bit. All right. My apologies, not actually, for that gratuitous plug for a government study commission. So that's the organization. So what composes, or how many people, individuals compose county government? Well, just about 400. We do the number as of December 31st. The numbers you see here, it was 406, 308 full-time, 98 part-time. And some of those are also seasonal. I think in my next update to the chart, I'll go ahead and add that in, because we have certain individuals who will just come in. For example, some of the rangers at Mock Chunk Lake Park, lifeguards. We have some summer hires who come in to help with maintenance. We have the liquid fuels program. So there's some seasonal workers within that part-time staff. just over a quarter of county employees are union members. And again, these numbers fluctuate pretty regularly as individuals fill billets or hires or people depart. So about 123, so just over a quarter of the county employees. And they fall into let's call it four collective bargaining units, because you have three unions plus a prison sergeant's MOA, memorandum of agreement, which does more or less parallels the corrections officers who they supervise. So you have the Teamsters, Carbon County Correctional Facility at the prison primarily, 54 correct. Let me see, right now I have 51 corrections officers plus 6 sergeants up there at the prison. Now this was as of December 31st, right? Then there's 2 AFSCME collective bargaining units, professional, about 55 folks, the residual, primarily court appointed in the courts, 21, and then there's the Sheriff's Association, which takes you to, so it's actually the 5 bargaining units, again, if you include the prison sergeant's MOA. That's primarily the deputy sheriffs and a lieutenant, deputy sheriffs and a lieutenant. This residual court appointed, primarily, not totally, the professional. Now, of the 4 unions that have contracts, we're getting ready to sign one AFSCME. We have actually 3 this year. One AFSCME, the Teamsters and the Sheriff's Union all expire at the end of this year. So a lot of bargaining, right, or a lot of work to take place in negotiating those contracts coming up. All right, so about 406 folks, 75% full-time, 25% part-time. Of the employees, just over a quarter of them are union members. 4 unions plus 1, right, for 5, 4 collective bargaining units plus 1 for 5, right? 2 AFSCME, 1 Teamster, Sheriff's Association, Prison Sergeant's MOA. Let's talk about the Office of the County Commissioner. All right. Office of the County Commissioner. What guides the county commissioner? It's the county code, right? That was one of the reference manuals I spoke about a little bit earlier, right? That's derived, out of the Constitution, the Commonwealth Constitution. It is a 3-member board in Carbon County. If you fall under the county code, if you use the county code, form a county government, you have 3 commissioners. If you are a home rule county, you can have 7, 9, or 11 commissioners. Tend to see them as part-time. Lehigh, Luzerne, Northampton, right? They have a chief executive, full-time county employee. Then they have part-time commissioners. There's also an effort underway in Schuylkill County to get home rule, get a government study commission and go to that. And I am a big supporter of a government study commission, ultimately assessing that home rule is a better form of government. We'll talk about that a little bit. Matter of fact, you can see behind my left shoulder, my dry erase board, where I have a home rule timeline. All right, you can see it right there. There it is. And there's some of the benefits of home rule on the far right also. All right, let's get back to work here. Stay on target. All right, so the Board of Commissioners, myself, Rocky, and Wayne, are the chief governing body of the county. And when I'm referring to county here, I'm talking county government, right? Because county commissioners don't run the county. They run county government, right? Right. And we are vested with selective policy making authority based upon the county code, right? It's about providing certain services on a county-wide basis or facilities. What is an example of a facility? We provide senior centers would be an example. So what are the administrative powers and duties of county commissioners? Well, it really is made up of overseeing the various county departments, right? I say 21 of them, the appointment of county personnel, and fiscal management of about a $65 million budget, right? You have about 10 million, which is really capital, about 45 million, which is day-to-day operations, and then the remainder within special funds and stuff like that. All right. And at a later point, I think I'll add a slide on the budget because it is so critical. So if this administrative powers, what about the legislative powers or authorities? Well, the commissioners have 4, right? A motion, but that's really parliamentary, is it not? I move that, right? And then you take a vote. So it's about getting issues on the table and voting on them. That's the motion, right? Then there's the regulation. And I think it would almost be semantics, but it's probably better to say policies, right? The Board of Commissioners for the departments that fall directly under its control, right? It's the policy that's used to help ensure the internal administrative affairs. The policy book might have the evaluation policy, the leave or vacation policy, things of that nature. How about a COVID-19 travel policy, or how we're going to ensure a safe, healthy environment for county, what we expect county employees to do in regards to safeguarding in a COVID environment. Resolutions. They are really just an official policy statement. Resolutions, proclamations, they lack enforcement, right? A resolution is a proclamation, right? We resolve that, we support an effort. Proclamation, Boy Scout earns Eagle Scout, 4-H week. The one thing where we do have enforceable authority, and I say this because think about this, we don't have a Department of Health in Carbon County, right? So we can't enforce health regulations. So who do we have to refer to? The Pennsylvania Department of Health, or right down to the municipal governments with their individuals. So if you're going to have an ordinance, you need a way to enforce it. And I'll give you an example of one ordinance that impacts anyone who parks in county spaces, right? The parking ordinance. It sets the fees and fines for parking. So that's the best example there is of an enforceable county ordinance. And what I owe on a subsequent iteration of this, probably in about 6 months, I'll go back and find the ordinances of the county, the ones that are applicable and enforceable. But the one that impacts anyone who comes to visit Jim Thorpe, county residents or otherwise, is the parking ordinance. Now, the Board of Commissioners also sits on a multitude of boards and authorities. Some you may be familiar with, some not at all. So let's go ahead and look at boards and authorities. And again, if you're just joining me, we started here at 8 o'clock. This is Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasiewicz. And this is my version of understanding county government, right? My effort to help us better inform citizens, residents, voters of Carbon County, understanding how county government operates and how it impacts your life. So here are some of the internal boards, the Board of Commissioners, right? And all the boards that are listed, get my pointer back up. How do I get away from my pointer? There it is, laser pointer, right? These internal boards, they all meet on a monthly basis. The Board of Commissioner, that is simply composed of the three commissioners every Thursday, right? Every Thursday morning, we kick that off at 10:30, live streaming it on Facebook. The salary board, right? That's about really setting the salary for positions. The three commissioners, the controller, right? This is all designated by the county code. Plus, if either a row officer or the judge has an action or a motion for their particular personnel, they become, for that particular motion, a member of the salary board. So let's say the clerk of courts wants to modify the salary. The clerk of courts, for the motion, I move that this individual is raised from a step 5A to a step 5B. She would make the motion. She's one of 5 members of the board for that motion alone, right? But primarily 4, 3 commissioners, controller, right? The retirement board, that's really looking at the retirement fund. Right now, about $90 million in the county retirement fund. Extremely well-funded retirement. The 3 commissioners, the controller, treasurer, all right? Very, very important. We also bring in financial consultants to assist in determining the investments that will be made that ensure the security of the fund and the strength of the retirement fund. The Railroad Commission, 3 commissioners plus 2 appointees. 1 is vacant. Right now, Rick Forgay from Summit Hill is number 4. The challenge with filling the 5th one is, the exact term is, it basically has to be a business that utilizes the railroad representative. In Carbon County, don't have many businesses, other obviously right there up in Nesquehoning, that leverage Amtech, right? That leverage the railroad. The prison board meet on a monthly basis. 3 commissioners. The sheriff has been elected by the prison board as its chairman. You have the warden sits on that. The solicitor is also on that board. Yep, that rounds it out right there, I think. I hope I didn't miss anyone. I apologize if I did. But the controller, right? I did mention the controller there, right? All right, then the election board, right? That's basically the commissioners, right? Now, Lisa Dart, right? Bureau of Life. So what happens on years that commissioners are running? It'd be a conflict of interest, right? So what happens is, once a commissioner decides they want to run for re-election, they have to temporarily suspend themselves, remove themselves from the election board, and an individual is appointed to the board. All right, so what are the external boards? Carbon Monroe Pike Mental Health Disability Service, right? We're in a joinder that's with Carbon Monroe Pike. Also, there's an advisory board, 1 commissioner's on. So all 3 on the CMP MHDS jointer board. 1 commissioner. I'm on the advisory board for this board. Shepherd House Food Pantry, Rocky. The Conservation District, I believe that's still Wayne or Rocky's going to take that over. LEPC, right? LEPC focuses on local emergency planning, primarily in regards to hazardous material or chemicals in the county. And then the COG, the Council, Carbon County Council of Governments, 1 commissioner plus an alternate. I'm the 1 commissioner who's the voting member, and Wayne is the alternate. And then there are other planning boards that we're not members of, but for all intent and purposes, ultimately we're responsible, right? Planning and Zoning Commission, right? Planning Commission, right? Parks and Recreation, and Farmland Preservation. So what are some of the major items that county government oversees? And this is really re-emphasizing the organizational chart we looked at, right? So county government oversees, right? Assessment of taxes, corrections, the prison, the courts, elections, which is critical, synchronization, coordination of emergency services, human services. We talked about children and youth, area agency on aging, planning. Just mentioned Dave Bodnar in his shop, Office of Planning and Development, right in the Carbon County Comprehensive Plan, CDBG grants, Community Development Block grants. And then your GIS, Geospatial Information Systems or Mapping Office, right? Transportation, Carbon County Community Transit or Carbon Transit as it is referred to now. So these are just some of the offices or really services that the county oversees. Obviously, Veterans Affairs is another example, right? So let me give you some kind of crisp perspective on county government. So again, this isn't in the county code. This isn't doctrine. This isn't in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's Constitution. This is kind of how I kind of see county government, right? Or where we should be, right? And again, no apology. The fact is, I tie things back to my career as a military man, right? You have the tactical level, you have the operational level, and you have the strategic level. And so making that analogous to county government, where does everyone fit? Well, the commissioners, and this is, to me, this is doctrine, right? The way things should really operate in county government. Unfortunately, emphasis at it, unfortunately, it doesn't work this way. And that creates ineffectiveness, inefficiencies, waste of money, lack of clear chains of command or hierarchies, right? So in a perfect world, commissioners would be at the strategic level, right? That is coming up with the vision. Where's the county at? Where we need to go in providing services to county residents. And then taking that, developing that strategic plan, right? We take that strategic plan and we have to operationalize it, right? So who's going to actually implement the oversight and implementation of that plan? That's the row officers and the department heads, right? So they're not down in the trenches, but they're kind of back a little bit, overseeing, right, those who are down in the trenches. And that's the staff, the caseworkers, the corrections officers. So again, this is us average Joes, this is middle management, and this is the C-suite, as it's referred to in the corporate world, right? So I think in the perfect world, that should have to happen. But what you'll tend to see, because, while we do have 406 folks in county government, right, 98 of which are part-time, the remainder are full-time, we're very shallow in the office. You have offices that might only have 2 individuals or 3 or 4. And so if you have one, and they're all doing separate tasks, right? So there's little redundancy, and you kind of need redundancy or at least good cross-training, right? So when one individual goes on vacation or sick, you can fill in and things don't stop. Well, you really don't have that depth in county government, right? We try to be lean, bare bones, but it can create problems at times, such as when you have COVID, right? Which is an extreme case, but nonetheless, flu season, right? When a lot of people are out sick, things tend to slow down, right? But the commissioners, too often, I find we have to drop down to the operational level and sometimes the tactical level. So look, I have no problem getting my hands dirty, but I'm not paid to be down here, right? I'm paid to be up here having a vision, a strategic vision. Yet at the same time, primarily ensuring that the row offices and the department heads are aligning their efforts with the overall strategy, right? Using the funds and the resources, right? The commissioners need to ensure that the row offices and department heads, their specific organizations, have the resources necessary to achieve the tasks of county government. It could be providing election services. It could be providing tax assessment, tax collection, uh, the issuance of licenses, whatever that case may be. We need to ensure they have the resources, the infrastructure, the training, the education to do that. And they do that, the department heads, by employing the staff, caseworkers, right? So that's my vision for how county government should work, right? But there has to be constant communications. And what I do believe is, and you might have heard this, right? Stovepipes or chimneys, right? Commissioners, row offices, and courts, right? Don't talk enough. Uh, don't come together enough. You know, the last time all row offices and the courts were together that I am aware of, that I can recall? January 6th of last year. What was that? That was the day folks took office. I think there was one other time we had a all hands meeting, right? That was a COVID meeting. That was an anomaly. So in 1 year, twice, the leadership of the county sat down and had a conversation. And really, we only had a conversation once. It was all COVID centric. The time before that, it was taking office, right? So you not only need to share day to day information, but you also need to be sharing upper level strategy, vision. And again, a big deficiency in county government, you know, not breaking down these barriers of communications. And there's ways we can do that by, once a quarter, every 6 months, having an offsite, going somewhere, a Memorial Hall in Jim Thorpe, bringing everyone together, have an agenda, and discuss the common issues that impact all of us. We don't do that. I think communications is probably mediocre at best when it comes to horizontal communications. Vertical communications, I'll speak for the commissioners, pretty good. But that takes the commissioners coming down on a regular basis, having conversations with the row officers or department heads. It ensures the department heads are not only talking, but engaging with their staff, their individuals. It requires that the commissioners are taking an active role in the annual evaluations of the department heads, and the department heads are doing their annual evaluations for their staff. That's part of the communication process. But right now, this is how I see county government. You gotta break that stovepiping or those chimneys down. It's not who needs to know, but who doesn't know. We need to do a better job of sharing information. So I'm going to jump real quick here to something near and dear to my heart. All right. And you're going to see a significant push at the end of 2020, the beginning of 2022, and throughout 2022 by me in regards to this issue. And that is trying to work myself out of a job. All right. So let's talk a little bit about home rule, because this is another form of county government. Remember, currently, the Board of Commissioners work under the county code form of government, right? 3 commissioners on a board, where we know 3 of our 5 neighbors, Lehigh, Luzerne, Northampton, are home rule. And what is home rule more or less? It's more or less like a corporation, right? You have a board of directors, which would be part-time commissioners, 7, 9, or 11, depending on the charter, plus a CEO or a COO, chief executive officer, chief operating officer. That'd be the chief executive of the county. And that chief executive of the county, excuse me, let me cough, have a drink of water, I might add. That CEO or COO of the county or chief executive uh, can be elected. It can be appointed by that commission, depending on how the charter is written. But really, home rule is about shifting the responsibility for local government from the state legislator to the local community. I think we have 11 home rule counties in Pennsylvania. Hundreds of municipalities are home rule. Significant number. Let me not say 100. Significant number. I wish I had my home rule book right here with me. I pulled that out. Significant number of municipalities, and I'll check that number out. Right. So, in home rule, the counties can exercise power and functions that aren't denied by the Constitution, right? But rather the home rule charter is what guides you. So, really, what happens? It gives a level of independence. Oh, there's the 7 counties, right? That are listed for home rule. Wow, I missed that one big time, right? Northampton, Luzerne, Philadelphia. I also mentioned Lehigh County as another example, as a neighbor that is home rule, right? But really what it does, it gives limited independence, because without, and that's a county, it gives more independence. The limited independence, right? Carbon County, act only where specifically authorized by the state. So the county code tells us what we can do, right? If it doesn't say we can do it, the commissioners can't do it. With home rule, that board of commissioners can act anywhere except where specifically limited by state law or the Constitution, right? So again, you can even control your millage rates, put a cap on it, or a percentage cap on it. I was looking at some of the justifications for why a government study commission might recommend home rule, right? You can have, and I'm looking over my shoulder here at my dry erase board. Let me see if you can see that portion of it. Hold on, let me just tilt it a little bit. You can see on the upper right, term limits, tax caps. You can standardize policies and enforce them. You can eliminate row offices, combine them, right? Consolidate, right? To become more effective and more efficient. Why should you have a clerk of court and a prothonotary, right? Civil and criminal. Couldn't there be one department with one appointed individual, right? You can consolidate it legal. I talked about those 26 lawyers in the county, right? Eliminate row offices, regional representation. Remember, you could have 7, 9, or 11 part-time commissioners. So it's not 2 guys from Lehighton and 1 from Jim Thorpe, but it's 1 from the northern tier, 1 from Penn Forest Kidder, 1 from the coal region, right? That Lansford's, Summit Hill, Nesquehoning, 1 from the Slate, more down there around Palmerton, Lower Toe, that area, right? And then you could have a couple at large. You could have recall elections, right? So if an elected official steps out of line, you can have a recall election, right? Annual state of the county. You can have minority party participation, greater opportunity, not just Democrats and Republicans, but what about those independents, non-affiliated, member of the birthday party, right? Who are so knowledgeable, but who will never get elected in Carbon County unless they change party into one of the mainstream parties. So generally, right? Home rule, right? So basically what you do is you create a government study commission, right? And this government study commission of 7, 9, or 11 members, I'm going to talk about the process, right? Basically works under the auspices of determining, shall a government study commission of 7/9/11 be elected to study the existing form of government, right, of the municipality, of the county, to consider the advisability of adoption of a home rule charter. And a home rule charter is simply a constitution on the county level. And if it's advisable, right, if that government study commission sees it advisable, well, then they actually develop the charter. And I'm going to talk about it. And here's just a general flow chart I put together, right? And you can create this question and put it on the ballot by one of two ways, right? It's a ballot measure. One, the commissioners can do an ordinance. So if I have one other commissioner who says, you know what, let's put this question on the next election ballot. If one other commissioner says that, we could stand up a government study commission to assess our current form of government and see if there might be a better way that we can be organized here in Carbon County. Now, if I can't get a fellow commissioner, then I have to do a petition, right? And that petition is more or less based upon the last governor's race, right? A percentage of, and in Carbon County right now from the governor's race, a petition would require about 1,100 signatures to get this question on a ballot. And if it succeeds, then this government study commission of 7, 9, or 11 elected individuals has 18 months to study the current form of government. So I guess the question might be, Chris, do you have kind of a timeline where you really think this might play out? Well, I do. And I believe in a government study commission. And all it would cost the county is really some expendable items, or triple SC items, as we refer to them as, right? Pens, papers, pencils, copying, right? These are non-paid study commission members, right? What would it look like? This is how I foresee it playing out, the government study commission, right? So there's the question. This chart is available online, and I'm going to repost it here in the next day or two. But I'm looking at making a motion for an ordinance in January of 22. So just a year from now, right? Hopefully I can find one board member who agrees that you, I, us, the residents of Carbon County deserve to have a government study position, that we deserve the right to examine the necessity, the need to bring control of the county down to the county level and not simply the dictates at the state level. Now, if I can't find a fellow commissioner to assist me, the plan would be the 20th Tuesday prior to the 8 November 22 election, which is here, to begin the petition process. You have 7 weeks. So basically from 21 June to 9 August to collect petitions signed for this. You get those 1,100 signatures, then that 7, 9, or 11 member study commission, those who are going to run for it, they have 3 weeks to get their petitions signed as commission members. Then on November 22, an election is held where this question is put before the residents of Carbon County. Shall a government study commission, and I would recommend no more than 9 members to be elected to study the existing form of government of the county, to consider the advisability of adoption of a home rule charter, and if advisable, to draft and to recommend a home rule charter, right? Then, If that is voted upon, the clock starts, right? From E-Day, Election Day, 18 months to make a decision if we should change the form of government from 3 full-time county commissioners at $250,000 or 7 part-time commissioners earning $10,000 a year, for example. But this is the entire process right here. So I have it laid out. I have the plan. And in September of this year, I'll be bringing together like-minded individuals, individuals who want to help me bring responsibility for the county back into the hands of the county and not simply the state as dictated in the county code. All right, so we're going to be wrapping up here really right now. Again, this is Carbon. What? Oh, Dennis, again, this timeline is extremely, I spent months on this timeline thinking, trying to determine when would be the best time to do it. You can't start a petition now because, and I think I may have answered your question. You can't start the petition period until the 20th Tuesday prior to the election on which the ballot question will be asked. All right, that within, it's kind of the rules regarding home rule. All right. So again, but I picked this specific election. 2 things. I prefer to do it in November because the petition period is in better weather. It's a lot easier to get petitions signed in June through August than it is in January, February, and March, right? When people aren't outside. The neat thing about this is anyone can sign this petition. It's not, you can only have Democrats or only Republicans, right? It's a registered voters. And we have 40-some thousand plus. So almost any person you walk up to who's over 18 is a registered voter in Carbon County. They may not be active, but it doesn't require that, right? All right, so there it is. Got it. Thank you. Thanks, Dennis. All right. All right. So what are the items on the horizon? I see. Well, we got the renovation project, 4476 Susquehanna. As you might recall, I am against and remain against the renovations that are taking place based upon the current plan and the previous plan. The renovations at 76 and 44, which is really not a renovation. Have you looked at it down there? It's a rebuild, right? They meet less than a third of what had been assessed previously by the previous board of the actual space needs of the county. If you recall the 76 Susquehanna Street project, the mammoth 2-level parking garage with a little bit of office space above it, that's going to be 25,000 square feet. This renovation project only adds 7,000 square feet of space. So again, we're spending $4 to $5 million to create some updated office space, about 7,000 additional, but it's not going to meet our needs because next we're going to have to basically tear that courthouse down to the bones. HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and rebuild it from in the inside. We truly are. If you've ever been in there, you know it needs it. But guess what? It costs money. All right. So those projects are going to finish. 76 will finish in June. A couple offices will move down there. Adult probation will move out of the courthouse down there. Juvenile probation will be on the first floor also. 44, the great thing about 44, right, because I wanted this to be actually sold and let a private individual, private enterprise deal with some of the challenges there, building in that location or renovating in that location. You're going to see uh, the elections office, workforce and planning there. Oh, you will have in 76, which is good. The veterans office will be moving down to the first floor. It's currently on the second floor in the admin building. Packard and Yard, what did I say about that? Right, we have 27, it's about 70 acres actually. 27 are kind of slotted to go to Lehighton, given away from the previous board. But those remainder 40 acres needs to be developed. It is a brown site. I had an initiative to actually put a solar farm down there. The reality is, because of the floodplain, the main solar company that would have been most viable has recently declined the project because of the floodplain. And we tried to work around the issue. And I know UGI has a gas pumping station, natural gas. I know Lehighton Water Authority has a building there. But again, different infrastructure needed for solar. So my backup plan always had been for Packard and Yards, because again, it's not going to be developed economically. No business is really going to ever be down there. It's too much of a transportation challenge. You do have rail potential down there, and I think you'll see a little development on that side. But I really think it should be incorporated into Mock Chunk Lake Park. Mock Chunk Lake Park is disparate. It's very large. I think we could make, and we could get a lot of the grant money to turn Packard and Yards into a satellite of Mock Chunk Lake Park. I think a dog park. It could have a couple fields down there, walking paths, just something, just very something simple and basic. I think that'd be a great project. The county railroad, I want to get rid of it. Amtrak is a perfect example why governments shouldn't run railroads, right? The county, we get about $60,000 a year from that railroad, primarily from the stock that rolls across it, plus a couple easement. It's not worth it. We can't afford to maintain it. It would cost in excess of $1 million to upgrade the 19 miles of tracks we have. The other problem is the railroad is probably in our top 3 liabilities. We have 3 significant liabilities in the county: the prison, the animal shelter, and the high bridge and the railroad. Train derails. While the Reading Northern Blue Mountain Railroad does basically have a lease to 2038, ultimately, right, we're the landlord. Something goes wrong, there's a derailment, people are killed, hazmat incident, the county will ultimately be responsible. It's a liability. We can't commercialize it. We can't make money off it, right? We can sell it, and for the price we can sell it, probably $4.5 million. I think that was when it was last assessed at $4.7 million when we had the most recent assessment done. That would be the equivalent of 60. Where's my pen here, right? I'm going to go ahead and do a little math right here online. All right. Oh, I'm going to divide 47 million or 4.7 million divided by $60,000 that we could sell it for. That'd be 78 years of income. I'll tell you what, we sell it, someone else can take advantage of it and commercialize it, right? Parking kiosk implementation is taking place right now. Obviously, we're kind of like an infant or a baby, right? Just having their first set of teeth coming in, right? So it's going to take a couple months for us to iron that out. The parking team's going to meet the end of March. We're going to discuss how that's going, make changes to our signage, to our operating procedures. Mock Chunk Lake Park, we had a great season last year, although we were $140,000 down on revenue. It was great for county residents. So what I'd like to see What I'd like to see, if nothing else, at Mock Chunk Lake Park this summer is a weekly county residence day where the beach specifically is restricted to county residents, campers, pavilion users, and season pass holders. Not unlike what we did last summer, right? But normally we only had about 300. I think the highest we went to last year was 450. Now, I will tell you, based upon COVID, we're going to have capacity limitations again this year. We can't afford, though, to not allow non-county residents in. $140,000, which is almost a third, about a quarter to a third of the budget. So we're in the red by about $140,000 last year. We can't afford to do that again. D&L connector trail, right, from the pedestrian bridge in the south of the parking lot all the way up to where the D&L actually is, running through the county lot. That's going to be starting in about 2 months, running through the county lot. That's a good project. Carbon County Community Transit, that's CT or Carbon Transit now. It's been rebranded. We have to continue to ensure our seniors have affordable access and residents have affordable access to that. Seniors, or if you're on certain levels of assistance from the state or federal government, it's discounted, but we need to continue to enhance community transit. Agricultural land, open space preservation, county government, in collaboration with the Wildlife Conservancy and funded by 2 other nonprofits, looking at how we can enhance our agricultural land and open space preservation, right? We want to put more money into this. We want to maintain that rural nature of our county. Obviously, you always got to find the balance between nature and development. But again, we saw the return on the environment study. The fact we're a tourism mecca is because of the natural beauty and the natural environment, the mountains, the Lehigh River, that all comes together. I talked about the 3 most high risk liabilities we have. All right. We're going to start probably in the next month. Lehigh Valley Humane Society plus PCOR, which is our liability insurer, is going to be conducting a review with Tom Connors of our animal shelter operations and risk review. How can we do it more effectively, more efficiently, ensure we have the proper funding, ensure that the infrastructure is good, and then minimize the risk. Individuals being bitten is a perfect example, brings on lawsuits on a regular basis, right? So the Humane Society is going to help us do that. Prison infrastructure, the roof project, right? We got to keep that up to date. We have to continue to do regular maintenance, or we're going to have major problems with the infrastructure in that prison. I'm talking like the HVAC system. We just upgraded the water system. We worked and replaced some of the rooftop units. We're going to be doing a significant repair to the roof. Emergency Operation Training Center project that continues to move up on the Broad Mountain. No, I never would have built it there. There's no water. There's no natural gas. It should have been down in the Packard and Dip if you're going to build it at all. Again, I was one who believes, there's 6 other within what? Oh my gosh, I'm starting to draw a blank there. Within proximity to Carbon County, we have like 3 or 4 other emergency operation training centers. Now, again, we can't be sending our volunteers, every weeknight out of county to train. But, fortunately, we have taken it from a Taj Mahal to something that's much more realistic and affordable. But I am still concerned with the funding for that because a lot of that coming from RACP grant. Broadband. We are working to figure out how we can better expand broadband in Carbon County. We're looking at a study grant from the Appalachian Regional Commission, working with an entity who helps us write for grants we can get a study done of unserved and underserved locations in Carbon County. That, and then we'll also, this study will help us develop the plan. And then we can apply for subsequent grants through the ARC or the ARC to help us reduce that gap, reduce that connectivity, ensure telemedicine, teleeducation, telecommute, that we can take advantage of those opportunities as necessary. Validated parking, I love just throwing that in there, and that really ties into the kiosks, right? January of 22, gonna start validated parking for county residents who schedule an appointment with a commissioner department, tax office, mapping, veterans. You get 2 hours of validated parking at county kiosks. My hope is some of the row officers will want to participate in this program also. So if you are the prothonotary, register will, clerk of courts, and you're a county resident coming in to do county business, you get 2 hours of free parking. That has already been approved as part of our ordinance. Because of the new kiosk system, we purposely delayed it a year for implementation. That's coming at the end of January, in January 22. And again, we'll also just recently passed on January 4th, the motion that we're going to be doing a workplace climate survey, right? To all 400 employees. How is the work environment? Are you challenged? Do you feel fulfilled? Do you get the resources you need to do your job? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? A seasonal parking pass for residents. Well, Dennis, the parking revenue is about $400,000 to $450,000 a year that is generated. County employees. Remember, the primary purpose of parking by the county is for county employees, right? We just take advantage of the physical space we have, the parking lot, the county lot, the upper lot, the 2 on Lehigh Street, by the Hooven building, railroad station, then 4476 Susquehanna Street, take advantage of the opportunity to fill our budget gaps with parking revenue, right? There are reserved spots available on a yearly basis for county residents. Now, there's limited spaces. I'd like to increase that about 25 to 50 spaces. County residents really don't use a lot that much unless they're going on the DNL. Fishermen, and we waive for county residents who are fishermen, we waive the parking fee in the county lot anyhow. That has been a historical practice, and that's going to continue. All right, so let me finish this up here. And again, this is Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasevich. I'm about 8 minutes over of where I wanted to be here. But this was an overview of Carbon County government. I'm going to go back through any comments that were posted online on the different places where I did push out this live streaming using the Zoom platform. I'll go through the comments. I'll answer any questions over the next couple days, hopefully tomorrow, if not over the weekend. I'll answer any comments. You can always call me at 570-503-6780. That's my direct cell phone number. That's this one right here, right? Or you can call the office at 570-325-3611. That goes through the ladies up front. They'll patch you through to me. Yeah, and anything you'd want to discuss on this issue or any other issue, right? It's an open phone, open door. You know, it's open line Friday every day in my office. You have an issue, a concern, you want to talk, you have a good idea, give me a call. I'll hear you out. You'll always know where I stand, right? You'll always know if I agree or disagree. Nothing to hide. You know, I wear everything, you know, right here. You can see it plain as day, the positions I have. You'll know where I agree or disagree with you, but never hesitate to give me a call. I do love engaging with each and every one of the constituents, residents of Carbon County who has taken the time to either call 570-503-6780, emailed clukasevich@carboncounty.net, or called 570-325-3611. I'm just going to stay on just for about another minute or two here. If you have any last questions, you can go ahead and post them in there. I want to thank all of you who have taken even a minute out of your night, the valuable gift of your time, to spend it with me, to be better citizens, better educated voters, residents, helping me instill the need to return civics, the knowledge of civics, back into our community to make us better citizens. So this is Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasevich. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. I'm fortunate I get to go home, spend some time with Maggie. Can't wait to get home. Have a great night. Again, thank you guys so much. Think the world of you all.